my biggest influences growing up was my dad as well as my grandmother. The reason why is they were two hell of a cooks. So I really love their passion, as well as they did everything with so much passion that it was my dad and his barbecue, my grandma and her Mexican food. So it's good stuff.
Awesome. How about you, Carlo? You know, I hate to piggyback on them, but it was my grandmother and my family. You know, all in all, my grandfather barbecuing on Sundays with my dad. Just sitting right next to an old Chambers gas stove. There was a little chair right next to a little stool. It was a yellow and white stool right next to that stove, and my grandmother making food for us. And when you went into my grandmother's kitchen, it was just a short order. You know, she was a short order cook. Always had a pot of beans on. Every day she had a little pot of beans on, pinto beans. And I'd just sit there, and she, you know, being a big kid, you know, she'd always give me a little tablespoon of whatever she was cooking. So yeah, my grandmother most definitely was my inspiration. So I shared this with you, and it still touches me because my dad, he had a stroke. He still has that passion for cooking. You know, it doesn't leave you, cooking. And so I go, and you know, it was hard for him to start a fire, get a fire going, just maintain a fire. I brought over a REC TEC. Dad and I, he goes, well, what is this, son? I go, well, let me tell you what I'm doing. And he goes, all right. So I showed him all the functions of it. We prepped meat. He turned on the button. He goes, hey, son, we're smoking. I go, yeah, we're smoking. And so him and I, we're like back when I was a kid, we were in the backyard smoking meats. And it gave him the ability to get back outside and barbecue and grill and smoke on the REC TEC. And I guarantee you, this day he's probably cooking some chickens or something, or doing some fajitas on what he likes to do. So I shared that with you, Ray, and he loves it. He's praying right now that everything goes good this weekend. So yeah, I'm blessed.
You know, I started at a young age. I think it was 18. I was working at this place in Uvalde, and they asked, hey, we have a competition of fajitas, and no one wanted to do it, and I said, I'll do it. So I took my little grill that my dad had in his backyard and took a bunch of friends, and we were drinking beer out of cups, but we were 18 years old, didn't care. And there was about 50 good cookers, and we ended up getting like 6th place right off the bat. They thought we were cheating because there was no way that a bunch of 18-year-old snobby kids were doing really good. And you know, I hit it off right off the bat, and that really got me into the cooking industry, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that's when I found out what was my calling. And now I'm a chef, and I think it was not until 10 years ago that my neighbor said, dude, you got to do this competition barbecue stuff, and I didn't know what it was all about. And he entered me up, and we hit first place right off the bat, and now, as they say, the rest is history. So I've been doing it for 10 years.
Started out in college up at Texas Tech University, going to the Bob Wills Festival, Turkey Festival, and competing out there. But being on the barbecue circuit, it's been since 2007, going on 10 years. And I've gone through the times of different apparatuses, different techniques, and I guess that's what's made me pretty successful. It's just going with the punches of barbecue and learning just all the aspects of it. First thing was brisket, and it was like boot leather. And let me tell you, I've cooked a lot of crappy briskets before I figured it out, and that's what I tell everybody. I mean, it's going to take some time. But let me tell you, with the REC TEC, it's going to take a shorter time because it's magic. It's voila. So yeah, that was my first experience. It was a cooking a brisket. Mine's going to be my thermal pin, or.
You know what mine is? On Competition World, it's my phone. It's the watch. You got to have the time. You got to make sure that everything's on time, because in the cooking industry, especially the competition world, everything's on time. It has to be on time. So everything has to be running like on full cylinders. At home, with beer, kicking it back, it's when it's done. When it's done, it's done. But in the competition world, everything needs to be spot on as every minute passes by. It's like we have our sheets. Okay, what time is it now? What time is it now? And what's the time? I think that's the main word we say when it's go time. It's what's the time. So it's usually, I would say I have to have a good watch. I got to make sure my phone's charged. After that, it's got to be great quality meats. But clock. I think clock
It's
is
funny. It's clock.
and
And my thermal pin for me is just to poke it, to see the tenderness of it.
Right.
The chickens, to get the chicken temp, you know. I don't want to be serving any raw meats. But yeah, my thermal pin is my go-to. Okay, granted, it's I love it. I was in Houston, you know,
He
believe it or
usually
not.
brings out a comb and does this. And
The lady
gives a
goes,
wink.
I go, hey, how you doing? Carlo Casanova, nice to meet you. She goes, yeah, right, Casanova. I'm like, well, that's my last name. She's like, yeah, and I'm, you know, Betty Crocker. I'm like, okay, whatever. I go, look, I'll prove it to you. I'll show my ID. If it says Casanova there, pucker up. And sure enough, here I am showing her my ID. I go, what's that say, darling? She goes, it says Casanova. And I go, yeah, pucker up. So I get a free kiss out of it every now and then if I'm lucky.
You know, the most significant cook that I have is always,
Yeah.
it's always the one I like to win. I always say it's the one I win grand champion. I don't know if I'm going to win it, but that was my favorite cook if I win. If I don't win, it wasn't that good. But no, on serious note, I think there's nothing better in this world that I love to do more than cook for family. I love to bring home, I love to cook on my kids come over. You know, I got a son in college. I have my daughter that's so busy. We're so busy lives that on Saturdays or Sundays, if we can all get together and just throw down some meat on the grill and just barbecue, or just going home for the holidays and barbecue, or not even barbecue, just cooking in general. That's the most significant cook, is that we can get together, because that means love, you know. So yeah.
Like one particular significant cook that I had was with this gentleman right here at the Houston World Championship Barbecue. The synergy that him and I had together, and with Matt Barber, cooking next to Iowa Smoky D's, Darren Worth, and Cool Smoke Tuffy Stone. We were right in the middle. Two of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but don't sell yourself short, you know.
Thank you. But these guys have been around a long time and have a lot of, you know, notches underneath their belt, as you could say. But no, you're right. You know, we put a team together, and we did, man, I just get tickled just thinking about it. We kicked ass. And
Yeah, we did good.
we
really
did good. We did good.
No, I'll tell you a crazy story.
I got one. I have one.
You know, I'll tell you a crazy story, and it's usually, when my crazy stories of barbecue, it always were the ones where it all happened because we were drunk, or it was because he brought that fifth of whiskey. You know, it was always starting off like that, especially at the beginning. Now we're such professionals that never does happen.
Never.
The craziest one I ever had was we were cooking next to a local, really bad motorcycle gang, and they were the motorcycle club. They literally showed up with a Weber and 2 kegs of beer. And we knew they didn't have no tents, no tables, no nothing. And I'm like, oh hell, this is gonna be a hell of a night. At the end of the night, they wanted to fight people, and it was pretty creepy crawly. But yeah, that was intense, and we ended up getting a grease fire that day. And I'll always remember, because those guys stole some of our wood that night, and they felt really bad because they got drunk. Well, the next morning, they thought it'd be kind of cool to go to the local tree that was right there, hack it off and say, hey, sorry about borrowing your wood. Here's some wood in return. So we were getting these branches, and he's like, here you go. My wife's like, just take it and thank him. Just take it. Thanks. So yeah, that was kind of the craziest one. Motorcycle biker gangs, whiskey, and green. I think that was hackberry tree. So that was one of my favorite ones. I'll always remember that one. Jesus, I was so scared. I was like, let's just go home. Because they were like burnouts and, oh my God, guns.
How long ago was this?
It was to the point where, I'm not going to lie to you, that the police department showed up and they just kept on going. You know, they're like, nope.
No, we know better than this one.
You're on your own, guy. And I was like,
You know, believe it or not, mine had to be Mother Nature took
Yeah.
over for me. And I was just getting going on my own, cooking and on the circuit, and I had everything just going and rolling. So mine was I didn't hunker down the tents, and so Mother Nature came with a little small tornado out in Selma, Texas, and blew my tents over, and they just mangled. Blew my brisket that I was prepping onto the ground when it was raining, and mind you, it's a 14-pound, 12-pound brisket. It flew off the table, landed. CJ was there and Darn was there, right in a puddle of water, and I just looked up and said, "I'm done." I packed up, screwed the $200 entry, and I said, "I'm just going home." Left the tents.
There's a bunch of them that have been like that.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I just
last week with the storm, after a long night of drinking, that we didn't expect. We hung out, and I woke up at 6. I was like, "Is this really worth it?"
I was still sleeping.
Let's just go home, get some tacos, and let's go home. But yeah, we ended up doing good. But still, it just took a lot out of us to.
First place brisket.
Yeah.
For me, it's my kids. I have 2 daughters. I have an 8 and 10-year-old, 2 girls, and I spend every living time I have with them. They even cook. They cook with me, and there's kids cooks, and they do pork chops. And my little one, Caroline, she goes out and she does the events, and she hasn't lost. She's always placed. And so I'm waiting for that one day she does it, because she needs some humble pie, because she's already saying, "Look, I'm Caroline Cooker." And she has a little, southern draw, because I'm Caroline Cooker, and I win. And so I'm like, God, she needs a little taste of humble pie. Mm-hmm. But it's all right, with Dad's seasonings and, and coaching her, I think she does really well.
I honestly can't answer that question, because that's all I do is this. Just as much as, REC TEC and yourself are so passionate about these grills, I eat, sleep, and think about this. This is all I do. I've done this. And they always told me, even not necessarily in barbecue, but in cooking in general, if you can take me out of this industry, I wouldn't know what to do, because this is what I've done all my life. And I've incorporated that with my life, with my kids' life, as well as everything that I've known. And I was actually born and raised in this with my grandma having a restaurant. So if this is all you know, this is all you've never been ever taken out of this element. So I really don't know. And I was actually thinking about it when he's talking about his kids, because I'm thinking to myself, what do I do? I don't. At home, I'm doing something with food too. So, other than cleaning the occasional garage here and there, that's about it, man. I really live for barbecue, as well as I try to live life to the fullest,
We just said that earlier, right?
Yeah,
we only live once, right?
That's
Do
right.
it right. My kids, definitely. It's going to be, she loves cooking fajitas and pork chops. I mean, it's just, I've even taught her how to put on the grill. I mean, it's so easy that my 8-year-old kids work at REC TEC just like me. I mean, all right, Dad, it's time to cook. What do we want to eat? Let's eat some chicken. Okay. She starts it because it's already at temp. It's at 300. I was like, all right, let's put the chicken on then. And so she kind of looked at me and said, "What, really?" I was like, "Yeah, really, put the chicken on." So she put the chicken on, closed the grill. She goes, "All right, chicken's on." So yeah, I start them out pretty early learning how to grill. My kiddos.
Yeah, ask him. He's right back there. What does he like to cook?
What's that?
Steak.
Yeah, he likes steak, and his sister likes steak too. So, thank God I have very low spending kids. They don't like the good stuff, Poor them, they only like.
They only like to eat.
Steak.
Me, I'm going on a year and a half. Yeah, I guess I'll be a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, he's turned me on to REC TECs. One thing I love about REC TECs, and that's why I'm actually here, is because I've had some of the leading industries, y'all's competitions, pellet cookers. I have 2 at home, and they're great until I cooked with this guy, and I was like, dude, these are different. And why? The 3 main reasons I really like it, and I was telling him, what makes REC TEC different than everybody else? One, it's just the durability. Like when you have a presence, there's a presence on the grills, and that's what I love. They're not flimsy. You lift it up, you're actually feeling like you're on a grill. And 2, they hold its temp, man. And the flavor's there. I think with our rubs and as well as the pellet cookers, it's not necessarily but pellet cookers. You can get the pellets anywhere. but how does the machine cook? And at the end of the day, it tastes like barbecue, and that's why I like it. And it feels like, you know what, it holds its temp. It's not like a wind gust. It goes from 350 to like 125. No, it's actually holding. And you know what? You don't have to worry about it in the middle of the night. Worried that, like, is it going to last? And that's why I was sold. I was like, dude. And he's like, I told you. And I'm like, and I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'm there.
Let's road trip.
Yeah, road trip. But yeah, I've been a made a believer on something, and seeing yourself on these YouTube videos and seeing yourself promote something like that, and that passion he has, I see myself in there a lot in that. So I was like, you know what, if this guy's this passionate, I tried it out. He's been hounding me about it because I'm old school, and it's one of those sayings: if it's not fixed, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But when you start trying it the first time and you're going out there and you're hitting top 10, and then you're hitting top 5, and now you're hitting top 3, and some of the best stuff in the world on something this thing that everybody's just like scratching their heads, like, how are they beating us? It doesn't. That just proves it's not. These pellet cookers can hang with anybody. So with some of the best pits, and I have a Bugatti of pits. I have a $20,000 pit that cooks the same brisket as that does, but you know what the difference is? I get sleep. I don't get so greasy and dirty. That's the cool part.
So cool.
I can go see, and I don't like it at the same time too. Don't get me wrong, because now my wife is like, oh, since you have time on your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
you know that light bulb, the filters. You're like, oh man. Usually I had to stay by the pit, but having the opportunity to work on these REC TECs is really cool, and I really enjoy it. And if it wasn't for Carlo really turning me on, it's like, I always remember the first time you told me, and it's typical Carlo Casanova. Dude, you gotta check this out. Everything we always talk about, it always starts off with dude. Dude,
this is awesome.
So it was one of those type of things, and I rolled my eyes on, like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. But then I was really sold, and they're great, and and it's weird because we're hitting with them, and it's pissing a lot of people off that we're beating them with pellet cookers, But it's awesome.
It's great. It's great, and the presence of it, rolling up. So I have a trailer that has another pit on it that I've retrofitted your pits on, and every time they see those silver horns just rolling up, you mess with the horns, you're gonna get hooked. So, anyways, there's a lot. Ray, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I love the consistency of my cook. When I know I need it at 285, it's gonna stick at 285. And it's going to get me through my cook. I love the 40-pound hopper. I love the accessibility of the 680 to where it's on the backside of the pit, and the versatility of using putting stuff on top of it too. The aesthetics of it, I love I can't say enough about it. The parts itself, it's far better than any pellet cooker out there. You're cooking with a pit, a barbecue pit. I mean, look at it. It's everything you need in to win on, and from the stainless steel to the lux to the consistency to the finished product, the bottom line, I like it.
The one thing too that that makes it different too is that it's okay to abuse it, and that's the difference. Is that a lot of these manufacturers that have other pellet cookers, you're gonna assemble it, you're gonna put it there, and it's not gonna move. Because why? After wear and tear, the bolts on it starts getting loose and wiggly. This thing's in the back of the truck in a trailer, week in and weekend out.
On my trailer.
12, 13 hours. And then you know what? I'm going to unload it, and then I'm going to cook on it all week. And guess what? I'm going to go ahead and do it again. And not one time is it getting flimsy. Not one time is it breaking the seals. It's made to be abused. And you know what? We abuse things. You got to admit.
We abuse things.
We're not here to
Pitmasters.
sugarcoat things. And I'll keep it real. I've had things fall off. I've had hinges break off. I've had hoppers that don't even make it past the drive because of the bumpy road. This thing is like made to be beaten up, and that's the cool thing about it. It's
a great thing.
It's not a pellet cooker. It's a pit.
It's a pit.
If you think of pits, what is the difference with a pit? When you think of pits, it's made out of rolled up steel. Is it made out of some kind of steel tubing? Why? Because it's durable and it's going to outlast us. And in general, we're going to do it by generations. That's the difference. If you just saw that off, it's a pit. And the other ones are just cookers. You know, they call their claim to fame is pellet cookers. This is actually a pit that can be abused.
And I've ridden that thing on. You've seen my pit.
Yeah.
The
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You see yours. You're just hooked on a freaking trailer, and it's like goes down the road at 80 miles per hour, and there's nothing flying out. And then guess what? It turns on like nothing, and let's go.
That's it.
And let's go snap necks and cash and checks.
Snap
Yeah,
necks and
boy.
check, cash and check. So here's a great story, Ray. I was cooking fajitas for Costco, for a fajita company, RYC, Artichoke Meats. You can get them at Costco's. So I was cooking a couple of 200 pounds of fajita, and I look over, and there's about 6 different Traegers there because they sell Traeger at the Costco's. And they were cooking the pork butts for Costco, and I looked over, and it showed an arrow code on his display, and I go, "Hey, bub, what's going on here? You got an arrow in here." He goes, "Oh, whoa, what's going on?" And mind you, this is, their Traeger Pro staff. Goes and he goes, "Oh shoot, I ran out of pellets." And I go, "How long were you cooking?" He goes, "Well, it should have been done." And he opened up the pit, and he still needed probably a good another 2 hours on his pork butt. And he was like, "Shoot." He goes, I gotta add more pellets." I go, "Yeah, that's a damn shame. Ever heard of REC TEC? They got a 40-pound hopper." He kind of just looked at me, and he noticed the hat I was wearing, and he kind of just shook his head and walked away. But that's my little story on that. I have another little story that was great. I was at a cook-off. I won't say which one, but one of the other competitors said, "Hey, did you cook all your meats on that?" I go, "I sure did." And he goes, "Well, if you ever want to come to our side, let me know." I was like, "No, I think I'm just fine where I'm at." And so that was a pretty big cook too. Believe it or not, for competitions, I have my own rub, KG Barbecue. It's an all-purpose rub. It's good for your briskets and chickens and ribs. But yeah, I've been at it for about 2 years on my spices. Now they're going to be coming out here shortly, so that's what I use.
I use like 5 different rubs. I have my own. I have my own line of rubs. They've been very successful for the past year. It's probably one of the number ones in Academy and stuff. But to get the edge, you always got to have the edge in this competition world, because the other guy's going to try to beat you. So I use about 5 different rubs. My rubs are really good. It's a very good base, and then you add to it. It's got a subtle flavor, and actually it's one from California all the way to New York and everything in between. So it's a great, and that makes me feel good that it's a great all-purpose rub. But in the competition world, you got to always kick it up another notch. And I use some of his rubs, and I use mine, and I use couple other competition guys. But yeah, you got to have the edge. In this industry, the competition industry, it's always changing, and there's always someone there to eat your lunch, and you always got to be 2 steps ahead. You know, one of the greatest things that I've been loving to do lately in the past 4 or 5 months is really hanging out with this guy. And it kind of feels like we're a bunch of wrestlers that have our own wrestling teams, and now we're combining to make this ultimate tag team. And we've just been killing it. And we killed it at the World Championship. We killed it last week. And, we've been doing nothing but snapping necks and catching checks, baby. And shake and bake, right?
Yeah, love it.
Yes, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. And we're here in Georgia this weekend. Hopefully we can have the same. We're pushing it this week because, we've been dominating Texas together and having fun, but we're coming out of our element. And, I think REC TEC's going to take us to the championship level and put us on that hill, the Grand Champion Hill this weekend. And
be on stage.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
REC
Making
TEC.
that walk, REC TEC.
REC TEC. I got a couple of reasons. I got 3 reasons why you guys should pick REC TEC. Service, selection, and satisfaction of the grill. Those are my 3 main things. And once again, go see RECTECGrills.com.
Yeah. Keep knocking it out. You want the triple S.
You want the triple threes.